So today's topic of conversation in the healing room is karma and samskara. And I'm sure most of us here have heard of the term, the Sanskrit word karma. And generally, we think of it as, what you put out into the world comes back to you. That which you do unto others, we are doing to ourselves. So it relates to the law of cause and effect, right? You drop a pebble in a pond and it ripple effects into the world. That action we just took, ripple effects into the world, and then those waves come right back to us. So karma is the action part, the dropping of that pebble. And samskara is the what comes back to us, the reactivity, the reaction from that action. So what we put forth into the world, big or small, significant or seemingly insignificant, returns to us always. And so all these things that I'm teaching, all these spiritual tools that I offer in the healing room, is all about being able to have the presence in each moment to know what it is that I am doing. What am I doing in each moment, and what effect is it having in the world? There are two laws: do no harm and do not trespass. Pretty simple, right? But if we don't have the awareness cultivated, then we don't even realize that our behavior is having an impact on others. And, these truths have been driven, into my consciousness by various experiences in life. So even though I may think something is just so insignificant, like it's not. And one time I was in Rehoboth Beach, and it was my birthday weekend, and I did some shopping. I went some clothes shopping, and I went to a store, made a purchase, and I left. And I thought, that's pretty odd. It wasn't that expensive for all these things that I bought. And I realized that they didn't charge me for like a $5 item. And I said, oh, well, I got a gift. And so that day I went to the beach, had a great time. And as I was leaving, I had no keys to the car in my bag, where I always put it every single time. It was gone. And I called my sister. We combed the beach, couldn't find anything. And then right as we were leaving, this woman comes up to us and asks, like, what are you looking for? And I said, I lost my keys somewhere. She goes, well, I'm really great at finding keys. Give me your phone number. And if I find them, I will call you. So the day goes, and at night, I am getting ready for bed. And I ask the question, what was that all about? Why did I lose my keys? This is ridiculous. Now I have to drive back to Brooklyn 4 hours, get my other set of keys, and drive back. It's going to ruin my whole birthday weekend. And all I saw was the receipt. And I thought, got it. Got it. Because I know nothing happens for no reason. Everything happens for a reason, especially in my life. So I asked the question, what's the cause? What was the action that I did, that I took, that led to this samskara? And so the next morning, as soon as that store opened up, I went back. I said, you didn't charge me for these shorts. $5, wasn't much. And she goes, oh, thank you so much for your honesty. And I'm like, oh yeah, no thanks to me. Just, I'm just doing, what's right. And I went back to the beach, and there was that woman with the keys in her hand. She said, I tried to call you, but it was the wrong number. So some could say that was just a coincidence, right? But if that's the case, then my whole life is coincidence, because these experiences happen to me over and over again. But the thing is, I have instant karma. I'm fortunate. I have instant karma. So when I do something unconsciously, that may potentially cause harm or have a ripple effect, it immediately comes back to me that I may balance out the karmic debt. And so, because of my awareness, because of my asking my higher self, my inner voice, give me the guidance. What's going on here? What was the cause of this, of losing these keys? And immediately there was the vision. No words, just the picture. And I responded to that, and I corrected the checks and balances. So imagine how many things we do in a day, in a week, in a life, what actions we take that have all these repercussions. And then we leave this plane, right? We die, so to speak. We move on. But all of these things come with us. All of these karmas and all of these reactions, samskaras, impressions, these mental impressions, they come with us. And these mental impressions are the motivating factor in creating the next lifetime. So say I have an addiction, like to alcohol. And before I left this realm, that addiction was in full force. I'm then in the next lifetime, in order to fulfill my desire, going to create an experience where I can have more of what I desire. So our lives is built around these impressions. And the goal is to be able to not feed these samskaras, not the negative ones, to not feed them, but to support them in dissolving, in burning up, so that they're not running our lives, and that we're moving from the fear, ego-based reality to the soul, heart-centered reality, right? Moving from one state of consciousness to another. And this requires a lot of work. Otherwise, we're being manipulated by all these impressions. I'll give you an example of what happened to me when I was 24. I went to Rome for a vacation, and I ended up staying there for a year and a half. It felt like home because it was such a familiar place to me. No doubt my soul had been there numerous times, many incarnations. And while I was there, I had this tremendous desire to study opera. I don't even like opera. Yet this desire, this overwhelming desire came over me. And I found an opera teacher who I paid for 5 classes. And after about 2, I didn't really care for her. I just never went back. But I stopped studying with her, and I stopped thinking about opera. So that was simply a memory that arose in my consciousness because I stepped back into a field of energy that was familiar. And chances are I studied opera, I was an opera singer, who knows? But it was just a memory. Now, if I had cultivated the witness, right, at 24, if I had done the inner work then that I have now, then I would have sat back and asked myself a few questions like, do you really want to study opera? Do you really like opera? Like, I would have done an interview with myself to see if it was a desire that was true for this present moment. Was it a real desire of what my soul is guiding me to do in this present moment? And the answer would have been unequivocal no, it is not. It's just some fleeting thought, some fleeting desire. And so I wonder, like, how many of these desires happen throughout the day that's motivating us and moving us to do things, perhaps completely off our soul's path. And so the reason we use all of these spiritual tools is to get us back into the present moment, to be able to observe ourselves. So we have this personality, right, that exists in this third dimensional reality in this body. But then there's also the higher aspect of us that watches everything. That is the soul aspect. That is the higher self. We want to get to the higher self aspect because that's the guidance we're interested in following, not just all these desires that erupt in each moment that take us hither and thither, right? Just take us from one thing to another. There's another example. When I was in the year 2000, I was doing a lot of intuitive work with a physician. I was essentially a psychic. And I was quite good at what I was doing, and I had a 3-month waiting list for clients. But at some point, this part of me kept thinking, this doesn't feel right. Like my personality self was like, this is great. I'm making lots of money. So in the third dimensional world, what I was doing was perfect. It was spot on. It all looked good on paper. But from the witness perspective, something was off. I was not on my path. I was simply repeating something from the past, something I was skilled at, right? But it wasn't the full picture of what I was here to do. So I had a choice. I was at a choice point. I could either continue doing this, even though it didn't resonate, or I could stop. So I did the unthinkable. I stopped. I just stopped seeing people, and I moved to Hawaii for a couple of years, where I went through this massive transformation and dissolution process, a huge dark night of the soul, of which when I came out of it, I had the awareness that I needed to go back to school and study holistic medicine. Like that was the next step. So I had to clear my samskaras. I had to work with all this shadow content that was within my subconscious for 2 years. And then once I did that work, there was a clearing. There was space to receive the next piece of the puzzle, which was go back to school, get your master's, get your PhD. Why? Because it's great that I could have these intuitive abilities, but I didn't have any tools to offer others to heal. I needed something to support what I was seeing, but how to clear up what I was seeing, how to integrate the shadows that I was perceiving. And that's where homeopathy, flower essences, detox, and all the other tools came into play, so that now I could still use those intuitive and psychic abilities, but now I had something to offer to support people in their transformations. And here we are, 20 plus years later, and I'm firmly on path, right? I have fulfilled this part of my soul's purpose. And so we want to take the time each day, right? In meditation, in contemplation, in observation, in witness mode, to see, am I on point? Am I present? Who's running the show? What's running the show? Noticing all the thoughts that are coming through. So it's both the actions I'm taking in the world and the repercussions from those actions, and the witnessing of the reactions that I'm having to the world, because the reactions relate to past impressions. All of my reactions relate to past impressions. That's when the homework needs to be done. How do I incorporate my reactions? First of all, how do I train myself to observe the reactivities that I have, to observe these samskaras? And then secondly, how do I be with these reactions? How do I not feed these reactions? How do I not feed these samskaras? And that's where the spiritual tools come in handy. In 2001, I went to India, and while I was there, I overheard someone say, we're going to teach this mantra by this tree. And my inner voice said, go, that's for you. And I received the gift of this mantra. Now that is also a samskara. That is also a memory. I was fortunate enough to be in the right moment in time to hear that person say, I'll be teaching this mantra. And the mantra was simply returning to me. It was coming back to me because I was repeating this mantra for numerous lifetimes. And so this is an example of an impression, of a memory coming back to me that is serving my highest good, because it is this mantra, the Gayatri mantra, that helps to dissolve these impressions. So the goal of life is to be present. If we're not present, we can simply be perpetuating lifetime after lifetime the same experience over and over and over again. Just like in that movie with Bill Murray, Groundhog's Day. You know how he woke up every day and it was the same day? Now imagine if that was simply each lifetime. Each day he woke up was just a different lifetime. And how we can just do the same unconscious activity for so many lifetimes. Maintaining the wheel of samsara, right? The illusion, maya. Just coming in and being spit out, coming back in and being spit out. No growth, no transcending, no transformation. So ultimately in the movie, what did he do? He stepped back. He observed his behaviors and how he was creating so much chaos and harm to the other people. And so what did he do? He turned around. He changed his life. He transformed. He went from a narcissistic, self-absorbed individual to someone who was of service. His whole life became about service. And so in that movie, they are explaining and sharing with us karma and samsara, and that everything we do has an impact in the world. Every single thing we do, and what we do comes back to us manifold. So how to be prepared for when the samskaras arise in our consciousness, and how not to feed the negative samskaras, how not to feed the grooves, right? The patterns, the behaviors that do not serve us, how to create new patterns, new wavelengths, new characteristics, new habits to override those things that do not support us. That is the goal. And, you know, I've written 3 ebooks called Mastering the Game of Life, Ancient Teachings for the Modern Mystic, right? They're on my website. Ebook number 1 is about the 7 contemplations. Ebook number 2 is about the 12 universal laws and spiritual principles. And ebook number 3 is metaphysical tools for transcending, metaphysical tools for healing and transcending suffering. So I've taken the time to spell out all these details in these books. They're not my teachings. These are just teachings from various places that I accumulated, absorbed, probably even in lifetimes. There's nothing new in these teachings. I've simply consolidated everything to make it much more digestible, understandable, practical. And this last one has many, many tools in it to support maintaining a state of presence, awareness, and consciousness that one does not perpetuate suffering for oneself or anyone else in the world. So please avail yourself of these tools. And yeah, I think your life will be that much better for it.